Hey everyone, this is Andy, better known as Love Retro BTW on Twitter X, Threads, IG, and Cafe BTW on TikTok and YouTube. A quick update that the Cafe BTW podcast is taking a very long hiatus, but I still have something really amazing to share with you. We have a fantastic retro gaming community on Twitter X where we've crossed well over 2,000 passionate members. And if you're a lover of retro gaming, this is the perfect place to share your content, showcase your pickups, or just chat about your favorite old school games. To dive into nostalgia and become a part of the thriving community, click in the show notes on the Cafe BTW link tree or go right to my Twitter X profile on Love Retro BTW. And now, without further ado, gear up for another sensational episode of the Gamers Week podcast.
This time on Gamers Week podcast.
Next up, and I'm sure both of you probably have heard this one, is the myth of Shenlong in Street Fighter 2.
Yes.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, of course. And there were always those kids on the playground going, well, yeah, I beat Shenlong.
Oh.
It's like, you're full of shit, Jim.
You know, I always think about those kids, and I never run into anybody who said I was that kid. But they existed. They just,
yeah, we all knew one.
Mm-hmm.
Donnie. Do you have a confession to make? You were that guy? No.
Yeah. I said it to try and be cool. That was me. So there you go. My name's Donnie. You met me.
My Sunday school teacher, she's better than you.
Shut up, kid. You need to cut down to like 2 packs a day.
Yeah, that's a good point. He was like Froggy from Little Rambles.
I don't know that many people.
For those of us with sheltered childhoods, what movie are you talking about?
Kindergarten Cop.
Oh my God. Yeah, that was an easy one.
Nope, didn't see it.
Patron movie night.
I'm down.
Yep.
Probably, I think that's one my parents would have taken us to, and I was not interested because it sounded stupid.
I mean, I guess the premise might sound stupid. It sounds like
It's the
typical
90s.
Typical Hollywood. Like,
Right.
It's the 90s, and Arnold Schwarzenegger is back, but this time he's a preschool teacher.
Yeah.
John Kimball starts off as an alcoholic, wayward cop, but through certain circumstances and a tough case, he finds himself in Astoria, Oregon, waiting to teach the kids.
They actually came out with a Kindergarten Cop 2 with Dolph Lundgren in 2016.
Oh my God.
Yeah. It's like, why?
Why not? This is the era of sequels after sequels after sequels.
Do you know there's like an entire string of Home Alone movies that came out after Home Alone 2?
Yes.
Yeah, I saw 3, and then I think I heard tell of 4. 3 was real bad, but it's got Scarlett Johansson in it.
Oh.
I saw bits and pieces of part 3, never heard that there was a part 4, and I am not interested in the slightest.
Then there was Starship Troopers that I had no idea until recently that there were sequels to that movie.
Oh.
I thought they were all like straight to video bullshit.
Basically, yeah, they were.
All right. Are we about ready to start?
Yeah, let's do it, unless you're going to keep yawning.
Oh, sorry. My fault. Welcome to Gamers Week Podcast. Like the name says, we analyze the best, worst, and weirdest headlines of the past week in the video game industry. This is episode 97, and today is Wednesday, November 8th, 2023. My name is Donnie G. Retro, and I will be your host this evening, but I am not alone. I have with me my 2 gracious co-hosts. My first co-host has petitioned Miyamoto to have Danny DeVito play Link in the Legend of Zelda live-action movie. And my second co-host is fighting off all of the women with his tales of Darth Plagueis the Wise. I have with me Blue Williams, a.k.a. Writer's View, and Ryan Payne, a.k.a. Retro Game Brews. Guys, how are you this evening?
That line works on every woman. I don't think you understand. I'm telling you, walk up to a lady. Just be like, have you heard the tragedy of Darth Plagueis the Wise? She's going to be like, oh my God, panties, boom, on the floor.
Oh my God.
Every time.
I mean, I kind of figured you for a Horadrim guy. Like if you showed up to a bar, sport coat.
Just hit it with some Decker K.
Yeah. You got the tweed sport coat with the suede patches. Like, can I interest you in a tale from the Horadrim?
My name is Decker Kane and I love the bit.
So, Blue, Danny DeVito playing Link in The Legend of Zelda. What are your thoughts?
Are you sure you don't mean Tingle? I'm pretty sure you mean Tingle.
So anyway, I started smashing.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on to our reviews, reactions, and requests. At Random Retro Dude says, I forgot about the flavored Tootsie Rolls. Those really were good.
The best one was when you took the cherry ones that were the pink ones and then the vanilla ones, which were the blue ones, and like wrapped them together and turned it into cherry vanilla.
I don't know if I've ever done that, but that sounds amazing.
Oh, next time you ever come across randomly these weird candies, you should do that.
Right. At Holy Headshot says, nice frickin' podcast. Honk honk. Legendary stuff, Donnie G Retro. Awesome poll clip and a great show all around. Nothing makes a case of the Mondays better than you guys. Thank you very much, Holy Headshot. And at Zach Hugethank says, can confirm Haley is a cold fish.
I told you.
Who is Haley again?
That was the AI voice you used.
Oh, okay. Haley was a dead fish. She had no emotion whatsoever. Like if I'm animated, if I'm showing inflection or whatnot, it doesn't transfer to the AI voice. Now, the one I used for Voicify for something else, for another project, oh my God, that was the TITS. I won't say it, but I can spell it.
And I never learned to read.
Is that true? Yeah, everything but the reading part.
And now it's time for the
If you wish Donnie dead, then by all means keep moving forward.
Blue, help, he's trying to take over the podcast.
Then we are at an impasse, Ryan.
I'm afraid so. I can't compete with you at Mario Kart, and you're no match for my retro gaming skills.
In that case, I challenge you to a battle of retro wits. One of these two NES controllers has a sticky D-pad. The battle ends when you pick either player 1 or player 2, and we both play a round of Tetris.
But it's so simple. All I have to do is divine from what I know of you. A clever gamer would put the bad controller into the player 1 port because they know that only a great fool would choose player 2. I am not a great fool, so I can clearly not choose player 1. But you must have known I was not a great fool. You would have counted on it, so I can clearly not choose player 2.
You've made your decision then?
Not remotely, because Tetris was invented in Soviet Russia, as everyone knows. And in Soviet Russia, no one trusted anyone, just as you are not trusted by me, so I can clearly not choose player 1. And you must have suspected I would have known the game's origin, so I can clearly not choose player 2.
You're trying to trick me into giving away something. It won't work.
It has worked. You've given away everything. I know where the bad controller is. Now let's play Tetris. Me as player 2 and you as player 1.
You guessed wrong.
You only think I guessed wrong. I switched controllers when your back was turned, you fool. You fell victim to one of the classic blunders. The most famous is never fall in love with a porn bot on Twitter, but only slightly less well known is this. Never go in against a retro gamer when the title of Podcast Daddy is on the line.
Who are you?
The Podcast Daddy. And that is all you ever need know.
To think all that time it was player 1 that had the bad controller.
They were both bad. I spent the last few years practicing Tetris with sticky D-pads.
Well done.
Very nice.
Well done.
Thank you. You know, speaking of terrible AI voices, I tried to clone your guys' voices.
What?
it wouldn't do it. That's the thing. Like, I managed to clone like Edward Norton's voice, and I managed to clone Humphrey Bogart's voice, and whatever it is about you two, it could not do it. It was not even close.
We're just
You
that
hear that,
unique.
Donnie?
So
We can't be replaced by AI.
apparently not. That little blurb at the end, that was actually Donnie's cloned voice.
Really?
What?
Yep. Where it was so like bland and mechanical, that was Donnie's cloned voice.
To think all that time it was player one that had the bad controller.
Oh, I'm bland and mechanical. Wow. Okay. Here we go.
Your AI clone is, so I don't think you have to worry about it.
Now, what's with this whole podcast daddy thing? I object to that.
You know what that's about.
You already know.
You already know. All right, every Monday on Twitter, we post our VIP. That is our very important poll. And if you'd like to participate, follow us on Twitter at GamersWeekPC. So the question for this week, which game do you think had the biggest impact on killing or delaying a franchise? Coming in third place, we have Metroid Other M with 13.2% of the votes. Second place was Bubsy 3D with 15.2%. And the winner by a massive landslide, Duke Nukem Forever, 60.9% of the votes. We also had 10.7% of people vote other. So let's look at some of the comments from the poll. At Retro Monster said, Beyond Good and Evil 2 took a franchise with immense promise and stomped it dead. At Shift Happens Pod says, Knight's Journey of Dreams on Wii. The addicting arcadey score attack gameplay of the original that everyone adored and still goes back to today, there's literally nothing of that in the sequel. The only similarity is that it takes place in the Knight's universe, and that's literally it. At SladePool64 said, Tony Hawk Pro Skater 5. I love the 1 and 2 remasters, but Pro Skater 5 bombing probably killed any chance of getting new Tony Hawk games made. At Stepford Crimson says, it has to be the Saints Row reboot. Now, before anyone points out, yes, I know that game is only a year old, but considering the abysmal reactions and reception it got, along with the official shutdown of Deep Silver Volition, yeah, I think it's safe to say the franchise is dead. And Phantogame Dan said, but the thing about Bubsy is no one had any expectations from the start.
Ouch.
Burn.
It's a deep burn.
So how did you vote in the poll, Brian?
So I have an affinity for beat 'em ups. I've loved beat 'em up games ever since I was a kid. And one of my favorite of all time, of course, is the Final Fight franchise, right? They were amazing on Super Nintendo 1 through 3. Each one of them is unique. They add their own little special elements to it. The first one is hard as you know what. And then eventually in like 2010s, around that era, maybe it was earlier than that. You know what? I don't want to sound like an idiot here.
Hold, please, idiot check.
Yeah. So this game came out in 2006 with Final Fight Streetwise. And they did the classic thing where they took a 2D game and turned it into a 3D game. So naturally, there's a lot of these extra elements that are added to the game because it's in 3 dimensions, including just the ability to roam around everywhere. However, you have to hit certain points in the map or in the game to progress the story. So it's not truly an open world game or anything like that. And then they added like these weird side quests that you've got to do and puzzles to solve, including a slide puzzle in the middle of the game.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And then there's one, like, people won't even talk to you at one point until you have to kill all of like the rats that are in this building. And it's so stupid. All I want to do is just punch people and be told I need to go to the right a little bit more. You know, that's all I want out of my Final Fight games. It did not need to happen. And I do not see Final Fight ever coming back as a result of that. Thankfully, they've come out with a bunch of neo retro titles like River City Girls and all that stuff, and the Kawabunga collection. All of those things save that genre, but man, Final Fight just took a nosedive in 2006.
So how did you vote, Donnie?
I think one that stands out to me was Splatterhouse that came out in 2010.
Yes.
So, Splatterhouse was a side-scroller beat-em-up, just like Final Fight, just like Streets of Rage. But in Splatterhouse 2010, what they decided to do is make it God of War-like. They took the 2D platformer and turned it into 3D. So some of the levels, I think, are 2D. with very cool looking backgrounds. But for me, the 3D elements just don't work. The controls get kind of clunky, and the guy looks just a little bit weird. He looks like this big, bulking weightlifter dude with just a hockey mask on. And I don't know, it just kind of killed some of the allure and draw of Splatterhouse that I used to have whenever I was a kid on the TurboGrafx and the Sega Genesis systems. Like, this is not what I know of this game. And I'm all for games trying to evolve in that sense. But this, to me, just didn't hit the mark.
Blue, what about you?
I went with the masses here and said Duke Nukem Forever. It was a game that took 14 years to come out, and it could be considered one of those cases where there was no way that it was going to be able to live up to the hype that had built over 14 years.
Right.
But then again, you also have to take into consideration that it was announced in the 90s and didn't come out till 2011. And so by then, gaming had changed so much that it was really just, it didn't fit in anymore. And the humor was super outdated, and it was just kind of a disappointment all around.
And I loved Duke Nukem growing up. So to me in particular, this was hugely disappointing. So many fond memories. Even like the old school Duke Nukem, like Commander Keen style games that were out there, those were still fun. But you're right. This one was just, it felt like it got released in the wrong era. Like when they should have released it 3 or 4 years after the last Duke Nukem. Went with the wrong choices, to say the least.
There were a lot of wrong choices in it.
Now let's go ahead and take a look at our patron shoutouts.
We couldn't do what we do without the help of our gorgeous patrons. Here are the generous folks supporting Gamers Week on Patreon. Bobson Dugnut, Loud Moth, Retroblast Pat, Great Siamat 81, B&T Zillaguy, The Mad Milkman, Johnny Boombot, Seven Castle Forest, Crunchy Kong, Sheriff Snacks, Frank Grande, Love Retro BTW, Steven Sand, Ramboski, Terry Kinnair, Doongie Forever, Ducks in Disguise, Don't Make Me Pull Over This Car, Games with Coffee, Hybrid Divide, Matto1606, You Fall Before Me, Davey PGH, The Red Ox Family, including Shannon and Luke, Shalaziel, Zach, huge thanks, Number One Blue Sick Boys Fan, Sassy Sony, Evo Lust, Rai's Secret Best Friend, Mega Retroman, Gamatroid, Michael LeKite, Emo S, Bill Tucker, The Real Retro Game Bruce, Fruitcakes Pickled Pepper, Ducks with Thick Thighs, and The Wizard of Sardas. If you like what you hear today, and we really hope that you do, please consider joining us on Patreon. Your support helps cover the costs of producing the show, as well as other cool stuff we'll be doing like prizes and giveaways. You'll also gain access to our patron-only bonus cast called Gamers Week Uncut, Patrons with Benefits. Visit patreon.com/gamersweek or follow the link in the show notes to learn more. Also, we wanted to give a big congratulations to Davey and Ducks in Disguise on their 100th episode of The Finer Things, which will be airing this Saturday on Twitch at twitch.tv/finerthingstv.
Congratulations, guys.
Woo!
Yeah, congrats, guys. Can't wait to see the show.
And now for part of the show my grandma really likes, headlines. Our headline segment is proudly sponsored by the Retro Game Club podcast. It's a fantastic, family-friendly retro gaming podcast. In each episode, Rob and Hugh pick 2 games to play and discuss, as well as news, interviews, and other topics. Right now, they're playing through Karateka and Streets of Rage. Visit them at retrogameclub.net or follow the link in the show notes. So I know some people pronounce this as Karateka or Karateka. How do you guys pronounce it?
I would say Karateka. But I think it's karateka is kind of, because the root word is karate, right?
Correct. I don't think I've heard it pronounced karateka.
Is this a Ninja Gaiden thing?
No, not at all. But then again, the whole GIF thing. It's like, no, I'm not going to pronounce it GIF. There's no way in hell. I'm not going to pronounce it karateka.
It's definitely GIF. Just
absolutely.
All right, first up tonight from Forbes, Microsoft's new Xbox generative AI tech sparks widespread backlash. Microsoft has announced a partnership with InWorld AI, which will use its tech to empower game developers on Xbox with AI tools. And before you ask, no, we are not just talking about traditional game AI behavior, an ancient industry concept, but actual generative AI, which has everyone from developers to writers to voice actors to gamers on edge and pushing back against the concept. Here's what InWorld AI promises to bring to Xbox through its tech. An AI-designed co-pilot that assists and empowers game designers to explore more creative ideas, turning prompts into detailed scripts, dialogue trees, quests, and more. An AI character runtime engine that can be integrated into the game client, enabling entirely new narratives with dynamically generated stories, quests, and dialogue for players to experience. Again, this is all under the narrative of empowering creators, and yet prompted AI-based scripts and quest lines and lore is something that is being immediately and profoundly rejected by most devs. And the timing is not lost on anyone, given the sheer amount of industry layoffs that have taken place this year. The creators that are supposedly being empowered want nothing to do with the tech. It's essentially exactly the same reaction among most screenwriters being told AI can enhance their work, or artists saying AI can help with their creativity, when it instead seems much more likely it could destroy their entire field of work. The problem with the video game industry is that there is no widespread, overarching dev union or writers union. Video game voice actors can and have gone on strike, but that's just one piece. And the industry is not set up in the same way to reject this kind of tech. And it would have to be on a studio by studio basis. AI is the Wild West right now, and all industries are trying to take their piece and figure out how they can use it to replace humans and save money. Microsoft specifically is going so hard and so fast on AI, it keeps smashing into things, like DALL-E generating such inappropriate images it had to be censored to death, or AI-generated polls asking readers how they think a woman died in a news story. So what exactly is Xbox AI game dev tech going to give us? I'm not sure when we'll find out, as first they have to find studios and devs who actually agree to use it.
All right, so this is AI tool that makes suggestions to you. What other Microsoft tool back in the day?
Clippy, this is all Clippy's fault.
This is Clippy.
Is this kind of like the Wreck-It Ralph situation where Turbo jumped from one game to the next? And he took over.
Clippy is the ultimate evil.
Oh my gosh. Who knew that Clippy was the start of Skynet back in the day? Never would have suspected.
Oh my God, it's funny that it's a Microsoft product too. If it was something different, it wouldn't be bad, I think, as funny or ironic.
It's not really a Microsoft product, it's a Microsoft partnership.
Sure, right. Sure. But nonetheless, this is not coming out through Apple or somebody else.
Right.
Now, you say partnership, but I'm pretty sure once they get going, Microsoft is like, hey, we're just going to buy you out.
Probably.
Pretty much.
Especially if they like how the tech works. They won't want anybody else to use it.
Nope.
And I know, and I think everybody else knows too, what they're thinking, and especially the folks at Microsoft. They're saying, so we can use this thing and not have to hire as many devs. This is going to be great. We're going to save so much money.
Right. And it's that topic we've been talking about a lot the past year, where Microsoft's 23 first-party studios seem somehow to really, really struggle to actually put anything out. So I guess you could see Microsoft going, well, we'll just throw AI at them and the AI can do the game, and then we'll finally get games out so people will stop criticizing us.
You know what's funny about that too is that none of this will be creative and new, right? Because we all know how AI works, where it just recycles information that it's privy to.
I definitely paid attention to that part where it says an AI design co-pilot that assists and empowers game designers to explore more creative ideas. So let's say you have an idea and this thing is on your back going, yes, but you could do this because this is more creative. This idea that I've stolen from someone else is more creative than what you came up with on your own.
Have you thought about adding loot boxes?
I don't care for that tone, AI. I don't.
It's the backseat driver.
Yeah, that's kind of what it reads like.
Right?
No, you have chosen chicken for dinner, but I feel that this is a healthier alternative for you. I don't want no damn chicken.
I think we all agree that this is concerning. But I do like the fact that this is being widely panned and receiving backlash immediately. Nobody's giving it, as I would say, giving it the old college try, it seems like. Everybody's just like, this is the worst idea possible. So before this becomes much bigger than it is, maybe Microsoft will listen.
The fact that this is not regulated, the fact that you could go and have a company like Microsoft partnership with in-world AI and just have all of this development stuff laid out, done automatically, that now the game industry just says, hey, we don't need developers anymore because we have AI and it can do all of this for us. Now, the slippery slope with artists, because yes, we have AI that does artistry work. We have AI that does voiceover work. Granted, it doesn't seem to have the inflection of human voices.
We have demonstrated quite handily that it ain't great.
It's not great. No, not at all. But as it starts to refine itself, this is scary to think about, that the video game industry could just have one person manning the helm. Like, okay, we just kind of watch over the AI and see how it builds it. And boom, here's your game.
Like, that's the thing. Yeah, you could say this will cause a mass layoff of jobs within the video game industry, but that's already happening as studios are, for whatever reason, unable to balance the books. And so they just hack and slash at their staffs with wild abandon, hoping things will end up in the black at the end of the year. Mm-hmm. So if they could put out 10 AI games to a studio's man-powered one game, they're not really going to care if they're all like super mediocre, forgettable games, because the amount of money they have to make back to break even is going to be so much lower that it's not even going to matter.
Nope.
And at the end of the day, the problem is that the industry way it currently sits is it's very, very expensive, especially for AAA studios to develop games. So naturally, they're trying to find ways to cut costs. The problem is they're cutting the cost of like the one thing that sells the game, and it's how it's designed and the gameplay and what makes it unique and fun.
But I think it's like anything. There's a certain number of people who are willing to pay to have something done right, to have it done well, and to have it be the highest quality it can be. And then there's a bunch of other people who just want it cheap and they don't care. It's like, how many people are willing to drink a gas station quote unquote cappuccino versus somebody who wants to go to like a really fancy coffee shop where they're doing pour overs and stuff like that. There's an audience for both, but there's a lot of gas station cappuccinos sold in the world.
I feel like you're calling me out specifically with the gas station cappuccino, and I resent you for that.
I can't imagine why that came to mind so readily.
All right, next up from GameIndustry.biz, Microsoft, EA, Activision, Ubisoft, and Epic face game addiction lawsuit. 4 of the biggest companies in the industry have been targeted by a lawsuit accusing them of enabling video game addiction. A complaint filed on October 30th in the Eastern District of Arkansas, spotted by Insider Gaming, names Microsoft, EA, Activision, Ubisoft, and Epic Games, as well as their studios, as defendants. The lawsuit lists 14 counts of action, including strict liability and negligence for failure to warn users of games' addictive qualities, deceit and fraudulent misrepresentation, fraudulent inducements, and violation of the Deceptive Trade Practice Act. The lawsuit states that a rapid spread of video game addiction is a result of these companies' concerted effort to get consumers addicted to their games in order to generate high profits. The plaintiff, an Arkansas mother, filed the suit on behalf of her child, a minor identified as GD, and her husband, the minor's father. According to the filing, GD is 13 years old and plays video games 12 to 14 hours per day, despite parental efforts to limit this time. He primarily plays Fortnite, Rainbow Six Siege, Battlefield, and Call of Duty, and is said to have spent approximately $350 per month on gaming. In total, it is claimed that GD spent over $3,000 on in-game transactions and downloadable content, not including the cost of consoles, games, and an Xbox Game Pass Ultimate subscription. The 129-page complaint goes into detail about the various microtransactions and monetization schemes the plaintiff believes get minors addicted to video games, including loot boxes, pay-to-win transactions, and rubber banding, whereby the difficulty of a monetized game may be considered analogous to the player's cost sensitivity or willingness of the player to make continued in-game purchases.
You are just a parent. That's hands down 100%. You are a horrible parent. To blame the companies, and I understand that the companies can be held a little bit liable for this, but you are not monitoring your kids' screen time. You're going to sit here and tell me that you don't have the balls to take the game system, unplug it, throw it in the trash, or stomp it right in front of his face? You do not know how to parent. You shouldn't have children.
I mean, yeah, it's hard to ignore that fact that a 13-year-old child spending 12 to 14 hours per day playing games, spending $350 per month on gaming. I mean, I don't know where GD is getting this money if it ain't for daddy's credit card.
Right.
So maybe we should cut the credit card up. I don't know. While you can acknowledge that the game companies have done a lot of shady stuff, an awful lot of shady stuff, this seems hard to get on board with this lawsuit.
$350 per month, $3,000 of in-game transactions. And it just reminds me of like an episode of Maury where they come on with a kid and be like, I just can't handle him. My kid is out of control, needs to go to boot camp. Catch me outside. How about that?
Oh, God. Really? You went there? Oh.
You know, and the thing is, too, they're not 18, this person, right?
Right.
So you're their guardian. You are responsible for their actions. Mm-hmm. So, yes, there are things about gaming that can certainly feel addictive. I definitely question the concept of game addiction. That I think we've talked about that quite a bit.
That is one thing, is this lawsuit approaches addiction as if it's a fact.
Right.
Like they don't warn people that this product is addicting. Well, is it? I mean, it's not cigarettes.
Yeah, there's no like chemical dependency here.
Right. I don't know. I'm going to name this mother Karen. If Karen clearly has this much time and money on her hands that she would rather file this kind of suit and pay a bunch of lawyers to take on these companies than she would rather just parent little GD, I would probably approach it from a different angle than just, well, these companies are ruining our youth with the rapid spread of video game addiction. It's too fuzzy. Karen, you're going to lose this.
Yeah, it's a bit of a stretch. I mean, yes, we have evidence that gambling addiction is a thing, right?
Right.
Of course.
We are aware of that.
And yet casinos continue to exist.
But they do curb the whole gambling addiction with, they say, if you think you have a problem, call 1-888-BETS-OFF.
Right, because that helps.
It does. Well, it actually bars you from casinos in your area. One of my friends is on that particular list. Like there's a casino that he cannot step foot on and gamble on anymore. Now, others in the area, of course he can. But I think you have to specifically say for that casino, like, I don't want to step foot in here anymore, and you can't.
So similar to like a parent unplugging their kid's Xbox and hiding it somewhere they can't find it?
True.
Yeah, the whole thing that they do with gambling, because now, especially with football season right now, where they have the sports betting commercials just continually in your face. And then the way they kind of put a Band-Aid on it and make it okay is, oh, well, if you have a gambling addiction, call this or visit this site, whatever. But it still requires someone to step in and seek help. In a sense, it requires a parent to be a parent.
Absolutely.
So that begs the question, are we going to see, if say this lawsuit goes through, are we going to see warnings, labels on loot boxes moving forward?
While they continue to exist, and they say, if you feel like you have a loot box problem, go ahead and visit this site.
All right, next up from PC Gamer, Valve is working on a new Steam feature that will let you hide all those weird sex games from your friends. Valve appears to be working on a new feature for Steam that will let you mark individual games as private, which will let you keep your profile public while preventing all your friends from knowing just how much time you spend playing horny housewives booty call blackmail. Or, whatever you're into. Currently, the privacy options on Steam are limited. You can set your profile or individual parts of it, game details, friends list, and inventory, to public, friends only, or private. That provides some control over what the rest of the Steam universe can know about you. But it's an all-or-nothing solution that lacks flexibility. The addition of a per-game privacy option promises to go a long way towards addressing that shortcoming. Steam users will be able to mark individual games as private, which will keep other Steam users, even their friends, from seeing it. Let's be honest with each other here. It's not hard to put together why Steam users would want this feature. Yes, you might want to keep quiet the fact that you poured 2,960 hours into Destiny 2. That's the kind of commitment that might give concern to friends and healthcare professionals, after all. But I would suspect that Valve's embrace of hardcore sex games is likely a larger factor. It's great to have the freedom to indulge as you like, as long as you're of appropriate age, of course, but it's not necessarily something you want advertised to the world at large, or even your online gaming pals. The Mark as Private option isn't currently available in the Steam Client Beta, and it's not a sure thing it will be released at all. Being able to keep your profile public, to take advantage of Steam services like trading or social features, while excluding individual games of any sort from public view, seems to me like a no-brainer, especially now that the platform is open to adult content. And I am today years old learning that there are hardcore sex games on Steam.
Sure
Wish I
you
could say
are.
the same. So me in particular, this hits home a little bit. So I've got a little bit of a story. So my mom was over my house and we were playing like Trivial Pursuit. And then I went on to the Nintendo eShop and, I looked at the deals for the day. We're scrolling through and my mom points out a game that looks funny because it says Hentai World, right? And there's these girls on it.
Does mom know what hentai is?
No, she does not. Definitely
And
doesn't.
you clicked on it anyway.
I clicked on it and I was like, look at this. This is what this is. And she's like, that's hilarious. Because it's a slide puzzle game, kind of like, those old games at the bar, you put like a quarter in and then you play it and then it would reveal like a nude picture.
Not really, but okay.
Yeah, there was like it was touchscreen games. It was like this big unit that was on the side of the bar. It was touchscreen games and then there was like, what's different about these two pictures? And then when you did that, it would like reveal a nude picture. Well,
I definitely want to play the touchscreen game by people who would be interested in revealing nude pictures. Those are the kind of people I want to be touching things after.
But it used to be a joke. Like everybody would kind of like huddle around it and laugh and stuff. Well, Hentai World is slide puzzles, so try to slide it around to find, which thing is supposed to go. Every time you do it, there's like this funny phrase that she says in text, right? And then like part of her clothing is revealed. So me and my mom were going through this and just laughing our butts off because of A, how corny it was, B, how bad the translations were, really, really bad. And so me and her played that for like an hour and a half, just laughing.
Yay, bonding.
There you go. And then I realized like a month later, when you click on my profile, it's there, and it says that I played it for like 2 hours. I was like, I got to play a bunch of other games to get this to drop off the list. So I bought a bunch of random games because it was like right near when the tournament was for Stand Up to Cancer that I realized this, right? So all these people I'm adding on they're probably looking through my profile and finding that. So yeah, all about the private option.
I mean, you make kind of a good point because it's not beyond the realm of possibility that you could apply for a job and they could check out your Steam profile.
Right. Or my Nintendo profile, because I apply to Nintendo jobs a lot.
Well, he sure does like our platform.
That's what that sticky D-pad's all about.
It's really kicked in there. All right, let's slide on into our top 3 new releases for the week.
All right, first up is Berserk Recharged, out on PS5, Xbox Series X and S, PS4, Xbox One, Switch, and PC. Evil Otto and his deadly robots are back, and this reimagining of the 1980 arcade classic Berserk. Berserk Recharged challenges you to find your way through a deadly maze filled with waves of menacing vocal robots. Deft twin stick control and power-ups are the only way to survive as you shoot your way through room after room in this never-ending dystopian maze. Megan McDuffie's original soundtrack of sci-fi synths captures the ambiance of a harrowing space station shootout and a very cool 80s arcade. Next up is Nickelodeon All-Star Brawl 2, out on PS5, Xbox Series X and S, PS4, Xbox One, Switch, and PC. Nickelodeon All-Star Brawl 2 lets you duke it out with the biggest and best fighting character roster yet, including all new characters like SpongeBob SquarePants, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Squidward Tentacles, Jimmy Neutron, and more. Nickelodeon All-Star Brawl 2's roster is better than ever, with even more variety in how each unique character plays. Battle with brand new Nickelodeon fighters as well as returning fan favorites. And finally, Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3 out on PS5, Xbox Series X and S, PS4, Xbox One, and PC. Call of Duty, registered trademark, Modern Warfare, registered trademark 3, is the direct sequel to the record-breaking Call of Duty, registered trademark, Modern Warfare, registered trademark 2. Captain Price and Task Force 141 face off against the ultimate threat. The ultra-nationalist war criminal Vladimir Makarov is extending his grasp across the world, causing Task Force 141 to fight like never before.
Blue, it's Makarov. It's not Makarov, it's Makarov.
Whatever, I do not care. Out of these three, what are you in for, Donnie?
I will tell you that I have no interest in playing Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3.
You will excuse us if we don't entirely believe you.
Right.
I will excuse you, but I know Mr. Blue has already picked up Modern Warfare 3. He started playing the campaign. I don't have any desire to buy this game for $60, $70 just to play the campaign when the whole game is really a DLC. I'm interested more in Warzone 3, the new map, but Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3, I'm going to skip this one unless I can get it for like maybe $15 on sale sometime. Nickelodeon All-Star Brawl 2 does not look like my cup of tea. It's basically Super Smash Brothers with Nickelodeon characters, and I really am not a Super Smash Brothers guy, which leaves us with Berserk Recharged. Berserk is a fun game for the old Atari, and seeing this kind of reimagined with newer graphics and everything, I think this might be one that I might give it a go. It doesn't look like it's extremely difficult. There's not a lot to it. It's a simple, rudimentary game, but I think it could be fun. So I think I'm going to choose Berserk Recharged this week.
All right. What about you, Ryan?
Call of Duty is a no-go for me. Never, well, not never, but just haven't gotten really into the gameplay in decade for Call of Duty games. So probably going to skip that one. Nintendo All-Stars. I didn't know there was a first one. So yeah, probably not my cup of tea, but Berserk seems strange to me. Taking the 90s or the 80s arcade and turning it into a twin stick, almost shooter. This is an interesting concept that I would like to know more about. So it's definitely piqued my interest. But as far as like, if I wanted to pick up a game this week, it's probably none of them, but Berserk is at least one I would consider.
Okay. Blue, what about you?
Yeah, pretty much the same. Never been a Call of Duty person. I don't like first-person shooters, but I will at least say that I've seen a lot of reviews for the Modern Warfare 3 campaign with terrible, terrible review scores, but I will at least put it out there that Mr. Blue is playing it and is enjoying it. So for what it's worth, if you were considering it, I know at least one person who likes it. Moving on to Nickelodeon All-Star Brawl 2. I am not really a fan of like the platform fighters, but the reviews for this one are saying that it's actually really, really good, that it has fixed and improved upon a lot of aspects from the first game. So once again, if you're into these types of games, this is probably one you want to look at. Berserk Recharged, yeah, it seems weird to be trying to take Atari games and bring them into the 21st century. And if Atari wasn't continually trying to make content for these weird new consoles that it's releasing, probably nobody on earth would think of doing this. Right. I'm not really a fan of twin stick shooters, but of the three, this kind of wins by default. It's not a great week, let's be honest.
No, it's not. And I mean, I would definitely, as far as like these three games are concerned, I could totally pass up all three of them. Mm-hmm. However, the only one that even slightly has my interest is Berserk Recharge.
It's a very weird clean sweep. We're all like, yeah, sure, I guess.
All right, everybody. So before we jump into our main topic, I just wanted to make a really cool announcement about something that's going to be happening next week on Twitter and Instagram. I'll be hosting a new RGB high score tournament. We used to do these way back in the day, and we're bringing them back. And it's going to be, like I said, available on Twitter and Instagram. So starting Monday, November 13th through Sunday, the 19th, we will be playing the classic NES game Mega Man 2. This will be a speedrun challenge where the idea is to try to beat the game in the quickest amount of time or get as far as you can. You can play on your NES, Switch, or PC emulator. Post a picture of your time as a comment at Retro Game Brew's pinned tweet or tag us on Instagram. Now, this is a community event, so there's going to be no zips or glitches allowed. For further rules, they're going to be available on Sunday, November 12th, so follow at Retro Game Brews on Twitter or at Gamers Week Podcast on Instagram to learn more.
Let's go ahead and take a look at our main topic for this evening.
All right, so from Forbes, Nintendo Legend of Zelda movie announcement has a few red flags. Shigeru Miyamoto temporarily took over Nintendo's Twitter with a little fanfare on Tuesday to announce the Legend of Zelda live-action film. Such a film has been rumored to be in development for years, but this is the most forward momentum we've seen to date, no doubt in part inspired by the success of Nintendo's animated Super Mario Bros. Film. Miyamoto announced that he had been working with producer Avi Arad on the project for years, and a press release revealed that the movie is being directed by Wes Ball, while being financed by both Nintendo and Sony Pictures, an interesting pairing. While Nintendo touts Arad as having produced many mega hit films, his involvement has raised a few eyebrows in terms of the potential quality of such important production like this. It's true Arad has produced a number of big films, but the sense is that he has been coasting on Spider-Man for a very, very long time. Since 2012, 10 of his 17 projects have been Spider-Man films and has been involved in really every major Spider-Man project from Maguire to Garfield to Holland to Spider-Verse to now Sony's bizarre Spider-Man-less Venom Morbius universe. The idea is maybe this spider producer behind Morbius is not the best choice for a Legend of Zelda movie.
The director in question, Wes Ball, is seemingly another odd pick. Ball has not directed a film since 2018 when he wrapped up his Maze Runner trilogy, an adaptation of a YA series back when things like Divergent and The Hunger Games were all the rage. Those films were fine, but it's a bit odd to see a director with little experience past that singular trilogy plucked for a massive project like this one. Then there's the writer, which Deadline, not Nintendo, has reported is working on the script. That would be Derek Connolly, who wrote the last 3 Jurassic Park movies, Dominion, Fallen Kingdom, and World. He wrote the pretty good Detective Pikachu script, which is a built-in Nintendo connection. He apparently wrote a Rise of Skywalker draft that wasn't actually used, it seems. But again, it seems like a bit of an unusual choice here. Really, there's nothing about any of these 3, Avi Arad, Wes Ball, and Derek Connolly, that would make you jump out of your seat and start to get hyped for their work on a live-action Zelda movie. Granted, this is an unfamiliar territory, as Zelda almost seems borderline unadaptable in live action in the first place, but it does feel like Nintendo has picked some unorthodox partners for the project.
However, we should remember that similar skepticism occurred when it was revealed Illumination would make the Super Mario Bros. Movie, the Minions studio. The end result there was a pretty decent Mario movie that did what it needed to in order to make $1 billion. And that's probably the most likely path for Zelda here. Probably at best, a decent movie that, again, will almost certainly make $1 billion. That's Nintendo for you. I do have reservations about who has been handed the keys here, but now eyes turn towards casting the central roles of Link and Zelda, along with learning which storyline this movie may end up adapting, given all there is to choose from in the series' history. But I wouldn't expect to hear about that for a while.
I don't know if I agree with that statement that this is an unadaptable movie. It kind of seems like there is, because what storyline do you go with here? Do you go with the classic one from The Legend of Zelda, A Link to the Past?
I think the biggest hurdle is not which Zelda timeline you decide to go with. It's the fact that Link is a silent protagonist. It's going to be really, really hard to make a full-length movie with a protagonist that doesn't say anything. And I kind of think that they won't even try. So a lot of it depends on who is Link now that Link can talk. Is he going to be, well, excuse me, Princess Link? Or is he going to be,
Yes,
or is he going to be, oh boy, I'm so hungry I could eat an Octorok, Link?
I can't wait to bomb some Dodongos.
Yeah, there you go. Brian should play Link. It's settled.
It's settled.
It's settled.
It definitely looked like a 16-year-old boy.
Maybe if you shave.
That's true.
I feel like a lot of the success and failure on this movie, at least by anybody who knows anything about the Zelda series, is gonna hinge on who they make Link into. And it's so risky.
Agreed, which is kind of what the whole Mario Brothers movie did when everybody was saying like, oh, it's Chris Pratt who's going to voice Mario. And you're like, this does not compute. This is not going to go over well. And when I watched the Super Mario Brothers movie, I was like, okay, it did a decent job. It's like, I'm not hung up on the fact that he doesn't have the pipey Italian accent or whatever. It's just, it did its work. It did its job. It did what it needed to do.
I do want to address kind of the 800-pound gorilla in the room and say, does this need to be a live action movie?
Of course it doesn't.
No.
Just like Sonic didn't need to, just like Mario didn't need to. But when there's enough dollar signs behind anything, then need really becomes irrelevant.
But my thing is, isn't this a risk to make it a live action movie after you had such success with a cartoon? I mean, computer generated, but cartoon Mario Brothers movie.
Well, that's the question. So when you say live action, Super Mario Brothers wasn't a live action. That was just an animated movie.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So is this going to be a live action or is this going to be an animated movie?
It's going to be live action. So you're going to have actual actors playing these characters.
Oh, no.
Emoting.
Oh, no.
Yes, that's what I'm saying.
Because there he is. Now he's afraid, just like the rest of us. And that's okay, because this beloved childhood property is being handed over to the guy who produced Morbius, the guy who directed the Maze Runner movies, and the guy who wrote Jurassic World Dominion. I mean, that trilogy sucked. I'm going to say it. That trilogy freaking sucked, especially the third one. The plot made zero sense. Absolutely none. And the Maze Runner movies, those were terrible.
Yeah, I yeeted out after the first one.
And Morbius is so bad, it's a giant internet punchline that the studio completely had no idea about when they decided that everybody was hate watching it, actually really loved it. So let's bring it back to theaters for a second run.
I get the feeling like maybe Sony's conflict of interest here might have come into play.
That's fair. Let's ruin this and maybe we can finally actually hurt Nintendo at something.
Now we can buy Nintendo.
It's like the plot of Spies Like Us here. Like, we'll find the dumbest guys out there.
Doctor.
They'll be the decoys, we promise. Doctor.
So, oh my God. Now I have visions of Dominic Toretto coming in and saying,
Let him be Link.
Vin Diesel. Yeah, he's like, man, if I got family, I can break all these pots. Really? No.
I just think it's a terrible idea to make it live action. That's my personal opinion.
Why would it be any safer if it was animated?
Because, I mean, with animated, you can really bring in a lot of fan service that I don't think you can accomplish live action.
So what you're saying is there was actually nothing to the Mario movie, but you were just distracted by the animated pretty colors and the fan service put in the background.
100%.
Okay. As long as you're
I see
admitting
a
it.
sign that says Duck Hunt on there, and then I'm looking going, oh, that's an Easter egg, and that's an Easter egg, and that's an Easter egg. That's why I watched it, and I enjoyed it.
You know, I finally sat down to watch this yesterday, and I think I got maybe halfway through, and I was bored out of my mind. I'm going to be honest.
The Mario Brothers movie?
Yeah, so turned it off, did something else.
Well, you didn't like the peaches.
I think Bowser was singing at one point, but honestly, I was on my phone.
You didn't even make it to that point, did you? I think one of the things, too, is that Zelda, you probably have people who are of a different age range that appreciate, especially the modern Zelda games, versus Mario Brothers is usually tailored specifically towards kids. I don't think Legend of Zelda necessarily is. So that's why I think it worked so well and got the $1 billion check, because the kids wanted to see it and the adults got to see it as well at the same time, paid their ticket, and then went, I remember that. You know? I don't know if you're going to get as much as that with a Zelda movie. I mean, they've got to have like you know,
right,
and some fan service, but it's so difficult to do that with a live action film.
I don't think so. There'll be some old man somewhere who will go, oh, it's dangerous to go alone. Take this. And
I am error.
Right. I think they can put as much fan service as they want into it. But I think you do make a good point in that Mario's often geared more towards kids, whereas Zelda, like Tears of the Kingdom, had a fairly heavy storyline. So I could see why they would want to maybe attempt live action for this and try to make it a quote unquote real movie.
That also, though, comes with a risky thing because there is so much lore to the Legend of Zelda franchise. And let's be honest, when it comes to Mario Brothers, the story is a little shallow. So you can take you could take a lot of liberty with that and create a lot of, exposition and stuff with characters that you might not be able to do with Legend of Zelda because their lore is set in stone.
Right. And like I said, there's so many different entries in the Legend of Zelda series, like the Four Swords, Twilight Princess, Ocarina of Time, Majora's Mask. It's like, which one are you, out of all of these, which one are you going to choose to make a movie about? And are you going to make the mistake of trying to incorporate something from every single series entry into this one movie and just make it a mishmash hodgepodge that doesn't work?
Like the Street Fighter movie.
I like the Street Fighter movie. Actually, I got it. What was the one Spider-Man movie where all the different timeline Spider-Mans come together into one?
It's the one with Miles Morales, right?
No, there's that one. Yeah, the Across the Universe.
Yeah.
Okay, well, whichever.
Spider-Verse.
Across the Spider-Verse. So they'll do Across the Linkverse, where all the links are together in the movie.
And the three links are together pointing at each other.
Spider-Man. This all just stinks of red flags left and right.
It stinks of cash grab, honestly.
Yeah. I agree.
I don't feel good about this, but is there anyone that you could think of to cast as Link that you think would make you feel better?
Oh, jeez.
Willem Dafoe.
I would 10 out of 10 watch it. I would watch it for Willem Dafoe. Give me Arnold. Give me Arnold Schwarzenegger as well. I want to see somebody like Nick Swartzen or David Spade get the part.
Oh, Nick Cage. Nicolas Cage needs to get this part.
Oh my goodness. Yes. No, Nicolas Cage plays Zelda.
He did such a great job as Superman.
Hey, Link, we're going to steal the Triforce.
Hear me out. Henry Cavill is Link.
Oh, yep, there it is.
Freaking course.
Rick Moranis as Link.
Oh, that would be fantastic. Oh, my God. But as its character from Strange Brew.
Oh, God, yeah.
Oh, yeah, take that, you freaking hoser pots.
So who should play Zelda then?
Oh, remember, I voiced Zelda.
Okay.
So if Ryan's going to play Link, then I would like to throw my hat in the ring as playing Zelda.
Oh, and what was it? I think it was the voice actress for the most recent Zelda game who confirmed that Link and Zelda are in a relationship.
So that means that we would have an on-screen kiss, and that's where I'm out.
Oh, come on, Ryan. Do it for the Academy. Do it for the arts.
Do it for the big old paycheck.
Yes.
I prefer our kisses to be off-screen, sir.
Slip me the tongue.
Got pieces of your beard.
He promises to shave. You both have to. Let's be honest.
Would you have Jeff jerky for lunch?
No, salmon.
Was that eggs? Salmon and eggs, huh? All right. All right, before we move on, let's take a quick break to talk about our sponsor. This segment is proudly sponsored by A Gamer Looks at 40 podcast. The show explores the history of video games through the stories and experiences of the people who lived it. Join host Bill Tucker along with a rotating cast of friends, family, podcasters, journalists, and anybody with a story to tell as they go beyond the bits and bytes to share personal recollections of the last 30 years of gaming. This week's question is, what's your favorite childhood co-op gaming memory? Let Bill know your answer by sending him a tweet at A Gamer Looks at 40 on Twitter.
I know I've said this one before, but Vegas Circus Casino, they had a 6-person X-Men arcade. Me and my brother beat the whole thing and probably spent $25 plus with quarters pumping into that machine.
Very nice. How old were you?
I was probably 10 or 11 at the time.
All right.
Nice.
Could barely see over the top of that huge machine.
I mean, $25 for a couple hours of entertainment in Vegas. That's not so bad.
All right.
Yeah, a lot of people spend way more than that.
Especially if your parents could go do something else and be relatively assured of where you are and what you were doing. That's money well spent.
There you go.
That's a very low hourly rate. I'd say one of my favorite childhood co-op memories with gaming has to be one of my best friends, whose name is Aaron, would stay over. He'd bring his Nintendo. When we finally got a Nintendo, he'd bring some games and stuff. And there was one night, I think we stayed up all night long till the sun came up playing Rampage on the NES. And that
Such a good game.
Did not end. We were like, what in the hell is going on? 6 o'clock rolls around. My parents start waking up. My mom comes out and she's like, what are you guys doing? We're like, why are you up so early? Like, we haven't gone to bed. And she almost flipped out. She's like, turn this thing off right now. We're like, but we're so close. Like, I think we're so close to beat. And she went over and just boop, pressed the power button. And we were like, no.
See, Karen, that's what you need to do with GD. Just walk over. Boop.
That's what growing up in the 80s will get you.
Oh, gosh. I think my favorite co-op memory from childhood would be Chippendale Rescue Rangers.
Ooh, nice.
Yeah,
Very
because it was a game that we could play together with me and being the oldest and then younger siblings. And if a part's really difficult, you could just kind of pick them up and carry them with you. So they're not necessarily holding you back like they would be in other games. Or if you're just feeling like being a turd, you just toss them off the edge or toss them into an enemy. And then they're yelling and crying and whatever. Then you get to go on and play by yourself. So there were lots of different ways you could approach that co-op. And we had a lot of fun with that game.
All right, thank you for coming, students. Please take your seats. Welcome back to Professor Ryebread's Nostalgia 101. Put on your tinfoil hats. It's time for the urban legends and myths of gaming. Some of these you may have heard. Some you may have lied to your friends about. All of them are actual things people once believed were true. Now, just a warning, the subject of suicide is briefly mentioned in this section. So if that's not something you're in the headspace to hear, feel free to skip ahead. All right, so urban legends and myths are pretty common. Just go on to any social media, type in the phrase, "they don't want you to know" in your search box, and you're bound to run into a plethora of them still being propagated today. Now, video games are not immune to this phenomenon, and whether it's spooky stories about haunted games, cheat codes that didn't really exist, or Easter eggs that couldn't be achieved by normal means. So today we're going to tackle a few from back in the day and see how many you remembered or even believed. So first one is a good old I choose you cursed game. So Pokemon was, of course, one of the biggest franchises to hit gaming in the mid to late 1990s. But despite the squeaky clean image of the games and its shows, there was a sinister plot afoot. Lavender Town in Pokemon Blue, Red, and Yellow is a town dedicated to ghosts and ghastly things. And the music that plays while in this town is known to be particularly eerie and unsettling, as one can get on a Game Boy. Right. But according to urban legend, some players, particularly children, experienced negative psychological effects when they reached Lavender Town and listened to its music. And reports claim that children suffered from symptoms such as headaches, nausea, dizziness, and feelings of unease while in Lavender Town. Some versions of the myth even allege that a few young players committed suicide as a result of these symptoms. Now, the myth likely emerged from a combination of factors, including the unsettling music and the nature of Lavender Town itself as a location associated with death. In later releases of the Pokemon games, including remakes and adaptations, Lavender Town was modified to reduce the high-pitched tones, likely in response to the Lavender Town Syndrome myth.
Never heard of this one.
I remember this one.
Oh, yeah. I remember it as well.
Though definitely I spent a lot more time around adults eager to prove that video games were of the devil.
So as soon as that came out, they grabbed onto it. They're like, see?
Yep. See?
Told you.
Satan wants your children to play Pokemon.
Next up, and I'm sure both of you probably have heard this one, is the myth of Shenlong in Street Fighter 2.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Urban legend revolves around a supposed hidden character named Shenlong. Now, the legend of Shenlong became a result of a mistranslation in the English version of Street Fighter 2. In that game, the character Ryu's victory quote says, "You must defeat Shenlong to stand a chance." However, the Japanese phrase shoryuken, used to describe Ryu's powerful uppercut move, was mistranslated as Shenlong, leading to confusion among players. As many gaming urban legends, rumors about how to unlock the Shenlong spread rapidly among players and in gaming magazines. Players claimed that you had to achieve a perfect victory without taking any damage, perform a certain combination of moves, or defeat opponents in a particular order to face Shenlong. The myth of Shenlong was fueled by an April Fool's joke prank in the gaming magazine Electronic Gaming Monthly in 1992, and the magazine published a fake article claiming that Shenlong could be unlocked, further misleading players. So you guys have heard this one?
Oh, of course. And there were always those kids on the playground going, well, yeah, I beat Shenlong.
Oh.
It's like, you're full of shit, Jim.
I always think about those kids, and I never run into anybody who said I was that kid. But they existed. They just...
yeah, we all knew one.
Mm-hmm.
Donnie.
Donnie?
Do you have a confession to make? You were that guy? No.
Yeah. I said it to try and be cool.
Oh.
That was me. So there you go. My name's Donnie. You met me.
You know what? It takes a very mature, secure person to admit that.
I didn't know if I wanted to say it because you guys were just like, "Oh, I've never met any of those shows in real life." Well,
my opinion has gone down a notch, which brings into negative notches.
Yeah, you better believe that's coming up in your intro next week.
Oh no.
All right, let's cover or uncover the Lara Croft nude cheat.
Yes.
Yeah. That's right. Tomb Raider's Lara Croft could roam the jungle in nothing but boots. Well, not exactly, but boy, did people wish that was the case. The myth of the nude cheat was largely a result of misunderstanding and rumors within the gaming community. Players speculated that by inputting a specific cheat code or performing a series of actions, that could unlock a hidden feature that allowed them to see Lara Croft without her trademark clothing. The rumor was further propagated by hoaxes, pranks, and fake cheat codes that were circulating in gaming magazines, online forums, and from Donnie word of mouth. These fake codes often promised to reveal the supposed nude version of Lara Croft, but alas, there was nothing more than a rumor. Sorry, boys and girls, no nude raider for you.
I did everything I could to try and find this code, man, because I thought it was true. And I was just like, man, it's got to be true. It's got to be true. Like, they're kind of hinting at it in some of these magazines. There's got to be some sort of internet thing I can look at and you know what? It never materialized.
So supposedly there has been mods that people have created for PC versions of the game.
Oh,
Okay.
I'm sure.
Yeah. But that didn't come until years later. So
When you think about it, being in the jungle with those things flopping about, I mean, that's probably not the most comfortable thing, especially with mosquitoes and all. You're slapping that, like, just get off, like, ah.
yeah, especially when, hers were like triangles too. So if you run too
There
fast,
you go.
like,
They could have been used as a weapon.
Right there.
Well, last up, let's discuss the arcade that was sent straight from the government to control the minds of teenagers in the Pacific Northwest in the early 1980s. Polybius. The Polybius urban legend is one of the most enduring and mysterious tales in the world of video games. It revolves around an alleged arcade game that was said to have appeared in a few arcades in Portland, Oregon. Polybius was a vector graphics arcade game that had a unique and surreal gameplay experience. Players described it as being fast-paced, abstract shooter with strange and mesmerizing graphics. The game's graphics and gameplay were said to be ahead of their time and featured a combination of geometric shapes, rapid movement, and unusual visual effects. What set Polybius apart from other arcade games was the claim that it had a range of bizarre and disturbing effects on players. Players reported losing their memory after playing the game. So how does anybody know about this if they lost? Never mind. Forgetting events that occurred before they played it. Some players claim to suffer from vivid nightmares or night terrors after playing Polybius. Allegedly, some players experienced nausea, headaches, dizziness, and even seizures while playing the game. And lastly, there were stories of mysterious individuals, often described as men in black or government agents, who would visit the arcade cabinets regularly to collect data and monitor players. As the legend goes, the game Polybius suddenly disappeared without warning, as did the arcade cabinets themselves. Now, there were claims that this removal was orchestrated by the government, suggesting that the game was part of a covert experience in mind control and behavior modification.
Didn't know that one.
The problem with this one is plausible, is when it comes to it. But all the details are not 100% plausible, but there's like, maybe that can be plausible. And that's how you create a convincing conspiracy theory.
I choose to believe this one. I believe in Polybius. #believe.
You believe in Polybius.
I do.
I still believe.
And it's now currently in the break room in Area 51.
Right.
And the aliens are playing it.
So before we finish up, though, let's give some honorable mentions to a few more urban myths. First up is the Madden curse, which says that
that's fact.
Oh, that is fact. I'm sorry.
That's fact.
Any player that dons the cover of Madden that year either gets injured, loses a lot, has a really rough year. The hidden cow level in Diablo, which ended up actually being a thing afterwards, so slightly a myth. Hero Brian in Minecraft, which was supposedly a malevolent being that you could run into. And the blood code in the Super Nintendo version of Mortal Kombat, which we know the only blood code was on the second Genesis version.
Yes.
So to wrap things up, urban legends and myths have been a part of human society since the beginning of humankind, and video games were no different, being spread by friends, coworkers, Donnie, and that loudmouth kid. Often emerging from player curiosity, hoaxes, and misunderstandings, adding to the intrigue and mystique of gaming culture. Thank you for attending today's Nostalgia 101. Just a reminder, if you have any ideas for a story or a topic you'd like to hear, send us a message at gamersweekpodcast@gmail.com. We might feature your suggestion.
All right. Thank you for come on. All right. Thank you for Professor. All right. Thanks, Ryan. Let's go ahead and wrap up this episode. Thank you for listening to episode 97 of Gamers Week Podcast, and a big thank you to the Retro Game Club Podcast, Love Retro BTW, and the Game Relation 40 Podcast for sponsoring this episode.
I like your problem solving.
I'm adapt. I overcome. Don't forget to check out their links in the show notes. If you want to connect with Gamers Week, follow us on Twitter at GamersWeekPC. Email us at gamersweekpodcast@gmail.com. And visit our merch store at gamers-week-podcast.creator-spring.com. Or if you want to do it the easy way, follow the link in the show notes. Join us on Patreon at patreon.com/gamersweek. And finally, since you made it all the way to the end of this episode, please leave us a rating and a review to let us know. We really do value you. While you're there, consider subscribing on iTunes, Spotify, or your podcast platform of choice.
Man, you were a hero for finishing that.
Oh my God.
I applaud you.
My face hurts. Jesus.
Like, once I started laughing, I couldn't stop. And I was like, you know what? We're going to do this. We're doing it live. We're leaving this in.
Good night, I guess.
Good night.
Good night, everybody.
This is Artificial Intelligence, Ryan Payne.
And this is Artificial Intelligence, Donnie G. Retro.
And we both agree that Blue Williams
Is unquestionably the Gamers Week podcast daddy.
Welcome to Gamers Week Uncut.
Welcome to Gamers Week Uncut.
Welcome to Gamers Week Uncut, patrons with benefits. This is the unscripted, patron-only bonus cast with less editing and more dirty jokes. We don't know where the conversation will go, but we're sure it will be weird.
This fish just went right on my nipple, and I'm just like,
I Google Street Fighter 6. The first search result that comes up is people think they can see Ryu's in the Street Fighter 6 reveal.
Listen up here, kids. You're not going to want to get one of those VDSTDs things, right? Make you fall off. When you go, grab a pro. You'll be doing it for America.
that was perfect.
If you want to hear weekly episodes of our patron-only bonus cast, join us at patreon.com/gamersweek.